Welcome to Fired Up. I am your host, Tammy Shike. Thank you for tuning in today. We hope that the topics we discuss can make you fired up. Hello. So this episode of Fired Up is a retrospective. Let's look back at our first season of Fired Up and talk about some of our amazing guests, talk about some of the things we've learned, because Fired Up is predicated on not only are these people going through things, but you are as well. I am as well. And so what can we take from someone else's journey that can help us in ours, right? That's what Fired Up is all about, is we all are doing this thing called life. And as we do it, however we can get a little help along the way to make that trajectory a little straighter and a little easier, hello, we want to sign up for that. So that's where we go from Fired Up. So as we look back, let's check back into episode 1.
So I think the problem starts. I take blame for this, but I'm losing friendships since I've opened this office, and I lose these friendships because I feel that people see me as a service. And the reason, and I love what I do for a living. I love my job and the specialty that I've gone into. Um, so I always love to talk about it, but I feel lonely, like I've lost my sense of self. I'm no longer a person anymore. I'm just a service. And so I'm having a hard time communicating that with people. How do I get them to see me as a professional, but also a person too, and not just a professional, if that makes sense?
Lindsay was amazing guest, but the interesting part for me in her segment was how much so many people can identify with people wanting more from them than at sometimes really they can even give. So what does that look like? For her, it looked like setting some boundaries of people wanting professional help in private settings. So she was out with her husband having dinner and they're asking about a rash. So it became one of those. She talked about her plumber not being able to go out with his wife because people wanted to get professional advice from him in that personal setting. So we talked about setting those boundaries. And what's fun to know as a follow up, because she posted it, is we talked about setting some of the things that made her feel good about the way she set the boundaries. For her, it was telling people in those settings that they could call her office. She would get them in sooner than if you just called and tried to get in. Sometimes there's a little bit of a wait there. So she was working them in more quickly, but still working with them in a professional setting. What she's told me since is that that is working, that she is using those boundaries and making that better, because ultimately people will hear you. Sometimes it may take a time or two, but ultimately they will catch on. Now let's talk about episode number 4.
My daughter's bio, is what we'll call him nicely, tried to take her from me, but he basically just doesn't want to, pay child support. So we went through, let's say, like years and tens of thousands of dollars into 6 different attorneys just to circle back to be right where we are right now. He quit his job, or he says he got fired or whatever, but and he's not paying, he's not keeping up his end of the bargain. Like, I don't care about the money. I don't need your money. I just need you to keep up your end of the bargain. You know what I'm saying? Because
Sure.
if I don't, then I get, and I'll, like, the police will show up at my door. Like, if Gracie doesn't want to go there, which she never wants to go there anymore, I have to make her go. Because if I keep her home, then he can have the police come over and then escort her out. You know what I mean? And it'll be a whole traumatizing thing. But he can just come and go and do whatever he wants. He can move to Indianapolis without telling anybody. He was taking Gracie there unbeknownst to me for like maybe a year. It's just, what I would like to get over is my anger for the way things were left and the way we did all of that and spent all of that money for seemingly nothing, because we're right back to where we started. I think Indiana is so pro deadbeat dad, and I'm frustrated. I'm just over it.
Interesting. So how long has it been since the actual divorce?
We were never married, thank God for
Got it.
that.
Okay.
Gracie was a beautiful surprise. We were just together for a short period of time, about 13 years ago, and he's a narcissistic, sociopathic kind of person, and he's very intimidating, and he loves chaos, and I don't like it. I get anxiety and high blood pressure. Like, every time I even know I'm going to be near him, my heart starts to race because he just makes me so angry. But yeah, it's been 12 years of him just constantly picking and picking and picking at me, and I just want to, like I said, triggers. I feels like a almost like a hopeless thing to talk about,
Sure.
but I would like to get over what's done is done. He's gonna do him. How do I just want to keep my peace? That's all I want.
So Kelly was an outstanding guest. It was fun to talk to her. It was fun to be able to watch her as she came in with so much angst and so much um, upset and judging on the things that she'd been through and all of her journey with her daughter and the legal system and all of those things and how much that was eating at her because when we carry those negative feelings they permeate into everything we do. We would love to compartmentalize them. We would love to say, oh gosh, I'm sure I'm mad over here, but I'm going to be fine over here. Fun fact, that doesn't necessarily work that way. And so, what we worked on with Kelly was kind of reframing the situation. Sure, this part of the situation didn't work for her, and it was not what she had intended. It was not the outcome that she had wanted. But in reframing her focus to be on her daughter and be on that relationship, then that gave her the focus of being able to move the hostility over. It doesn't mean it goes away, but if it's not in the forefront of our brain, then maybe it is not the first thing we do with the humans we interact with. And that was the point there of just being able to set it aside. It doesn't mean it goes away. It doesn't mean we're burying our head in the sand, but it does mean that we can look at what is in our control. And instead of focusing on the things that are out of our control, it gives us more of a sense of balance and the things that we can control become comfort for us and we don't necessarily need to let go of the things that are out of our control but they probably shouldn't be the central focus. It was a great episode. I can't wait for you to see it. Our next episode that I'd like to reflect on would be checking into episode number 6 with Haley.
I would love to talk about back to the 5 kid reference. I have been pregnant for about 7 years now, if you do the math. So for 7 years, I've been back to back with pregnancies. And I feel like I've kind of lost myself in the way of that because it's been motherhood, running a business, and wearing so many hats that I feel like I've lost my sense of self. And I'm trying to dig myself out of the postpartum trenches and find myself again. So I'm wanting some tips, tricks, some advice on how we can, navigate the waters of finding myself again outside of motherhood and being a wife and a business owner and just finding myself.
So, once again, Haley did us the great service of being able to talk about things that we can all relate to. Sometimes we are pulled in so many different directions that we are busy doing life and we forget that we need some things too. And so, talking about finding herself will only help and enrich her relationship with her children, with her family, with her husband, with her business, with all of the people that come into her life. Because as we are happy humans, then that is again a part of everything we do. My contention is that even if we go into the day in a good place, bad things are going to happen. The degree of those bad things varies widely. But if we go into it from a solid place, they bounce off of us a little bit better than they do if we start the day in a bad spot. And so when we are focused on everything that's wrong, when we are focused on not being enough, when we are focused on all of those things that we consider our faults or our failures, then we can't see the forest for the trees, right? The old expression. We can't see the good things that we're taking into our world because we're focusing on what we're not instead of what we are. And sometimes what we are, especially in Haley's case, was fantastic. So learning to be able to think about those good things, focus there, and focus on what we need I always say one of my favorite pieces of life advice comes from flying the friendly skies. So we get on the plane, and what happens is the voice comes on and says, should there be any problems, an oxygen mask will drop down. Please put the mask on yourself before you help someone else. And it's such an analogy for what we do in life. When we are so spent, we can't help others in the degree that we could if we were on top of it with our own lives. So that's what Haley's life says to me is let's make sure that we're taking care of ourselves so that we're even better equipped to help those we love. Let's look at the clips from Christina in episode 9.
So having the spirit that I've always had, even till 45, like I see myself back then at the age of 6, all the way here to 45, but with all of this turmoil,
Sure.
loss.
Do you feel like you lost a voice?
No.
You feel like
I gained my voice.
That's why the voice
Right,
is bigger.
right. Because being so little, I felt like that voice was taken away from me before I even
That's
had
what
it.
I meant. No, that's what I meant.
Yes.
So in the moments where you didn't have a voice, don't you think that that's what's formed the voice that you have for everyone now?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And that's why I feel like I can be a great advocate, that I have been a great advocate,
100%.
that sometimes when I am so bold and rawr is because I was so silent for so long.
So how beautiful is it to see a human be completely raw and completely able to talk about who they are, who they were as a 6-year-old, who they are today, and who they want to be. And that feeling is not just for adults at certain ages. That takes care of all of us because we all carry 5-year-old, 6-year-old, 10-year-old, wherever there was a moment in your life that really impacted you. Maybe it's a positive, maybe it's a negative, but there's something in your life that impacted you at an early age. I want you to understand that you bring that with you. Now, even if it was a negative, it's not necessarily a negative in your life because maybe that negative caused you to be more caring. Maybe that negative, while it may have made you afraid, at another part of your life, it may have made you bold and may have made you able to speak on behalf of others when they didn't have a voice the way you didn't have a voice when you were younger. The episode for me was just so heart touching because she was so honest with us. And then being able to say, look, I've accomplished all these things being me, but now I want to do more. And I think that that's an amazing place to be at your life. But then her breaking that down by telling us she wants to do more, but now she's a little afraid of what that looks like and what that next step looks like. Being vulnerable, being real, being genuine, we can all relate to that. And when we see somebody innately that needs us, part of our DNA, part of our hardwiring is we want to help. And so when someone comes at us from a place of, look, all I want to do is help others, are you kidding me? Like, that's what we all want to help with. We're all ready to sign on, sign up, and see how we can help others. Because at the end of the day, making this world better for all of us is making this world better for all of us. We take pride in that. Um, that's what she's trying to accomplish. And what being able to tell us that this next part is scary, I think was a beautiful thing because it made me just want to lock arms with her and help her get there. So I hope that becomes a message for all of us. Don't hesitate to reach out. There are a lot of good people on this planet. And if you need something, I mean, goodness gracious, that's kind of what life coaching is. We kind of stir in our own juices, right? You get mad at somebody and then you have a head of steam and you figure out all the reasons why you're upset with them. And I'm going to say this and I'm going to say this and I'm going to say this. Well, maybe that's really cool. And maybe everything you've made up in your head is great. Or maybe what you've made up in your head just exacerbates the problem. And if your goal is to make the situation better, maybe some of the things that we say in our head are not things that we share with the class. So life coaching becomes about exactly that. How can I coach you to be in that best place to help yourself, to help others? That's what we do here. And so I would like to, reflecting back on Christina's episode by saying, how cool was it that she was so raw? And it only makes me want to jump in and help more. And I think maybe that's probably a good thing for all of us in all of our walks of life. Finally, I'd like to talk about episode number 10.
I was the weatherman at Channel 10 for oh 40 years. I worked at Channel 10 for 42 years. And Tammy, we worked really, really hard to build that station up. Now I have to be careful here because I signed something that I wouldn't bash
Understood.
the owners. But
Understood.
needless to say, the station changed dramatically within the last year.
Sure.
And people I've worked with for my entire tenure there at Channel 10 got fired before I did. And I started seeing people that I knew and loved that we've gone through things like with marriages and the deaths of parents and the
Sure.
births of children and so
Sure.
on. It's like a really close knit family. And that has all been just taken away.
Kevin, what a great guest to have on. As I said to him, Kevin has been around and has been a part of our environment in our community for many years. He talked about being on the station for 42 years. Hearing about 5th grade Kevin putting together his own mock up of a radio station and being able to broadcast and to be able to, from a young age, his early goal was to help others. Now, we can call it doing the weather, we can call it putting on a broadcast, but the base of that was him wanting to help others, talking about his grandmother's sayings and how much that affected him, and he brought it to us because he said, as he said a few of those, I thought to myself, oh, I remember him saying things like that. So how cool that he shared that relationship with us in a way that we didn't even know he brought us in. And then talking about what life looks like when you are handed a dead end that you didn't count on. He talked about knowing that this job was coming to an end, but he didn't know when. And I think we can relate to that in a lot of different areas. Have you been at a place in your life where you or someone else in your life has been diagnosed with something? Maybe it's a divorce. Maybe it's a death in the family. Maybe it's a disruption to your career. We all get put in places that we didn't write in our screenplay, that we didn't see queued up for us. They didn't give us time before where they said, oh, and by the way, this is going to happen on Tuesday. Usually gut punch things don't come out that way. And so then the theory in all of this is, what do we do when we're presented with something that we hadn't thought was going to be a part of our journey? And guess what? Life is like that, like for all of us in all different ways. We talked with Kevin about what's next for him because my theory is he loves and has so much to give of people that I can't imagine that there's not another act. I'm not going to say second act because that implies like it's a follow up. I don't think that's the case. I think that just when you're a human that has a lot to give, why not keep giving it? Because I can't imagine anybody watching him and not seeing the joy on his face. And hearing today about 5th grade Kevin, yeah, I think I can now see 5th grade Kevin in his face when he delights in helping others. And isn't that a great path for all of us? Whatever your journey, whatever you're going through, whatever it is in life that didn't quite work the way we thought it was going to, is that the time that we rise up and figure out where to go from there instead of fighting the fact that it came in our world? In my control, out of my control. Something we all need to live by, something that I end up telling myself a lot because I'm the person that wants to control what is not in my control. And to do that, we are only jamming ourselves up. And so, like we talked about with Kelly, if we can refocus on the things that we have in our life that are meaningful, that are beautiful, that make us who we are, then it puts the out of control things at a lower level so that we know they're there and we know that we're not controlling them. And hi, my name is Tammy, and I'm honked off about that quite a few times. But I'm going to work really hard on the things that I can control. And I'm going to use those as my steps to get me where I want to be because I will get higher and I will help others. And I'm going to use those people and those things in my control to get there. Thank you so much for tuning in to Fired Up. It is a love project for me. If we can help you find one little thing to make your day better, this whole thing has been a success. I'm sure you have an interesting story, and I'm all about your interesting stories. I hope to speak with you soon, and I hope you leave fired up.